So 700 by 500 is going to be our pixel dimensions. Going to have it be a little bit wider than tall. So here we are in pixel art, and I've said create a new drawing, and those are the numbers that I plugged in, and here we go. So there is our canvas, let's call it. And my thought for this project is to do a really rough sketch first. And that will be the layer that goes underneath everything else that I do. And in the end, this sketch, or scratch layer, we could call it, will be thrown away. But I just want to work on getting my 50 frames down and in kind of a rough draft format. So let's start. I'm going to rename my background Scratch. There. Okay. And for this, I'm just going to be using my pencil tool. I'm going to go with nothing too big, maybe 4 pixels. And let's see what kind of a mark that makes. So maybe a little bit bigger than I need. So let's try 2. I just need it to be visible. Now, if you hear something in the background that sounds like a dog gobbling down kibble, that's because it's a dog gobbling down kibble. So let's look at my first frame in my storyboard, and I'm going to look at my second frame in my storyboard. And what that's telling me is that I have about 10 frames to go from one to the next. So now we're going to look at frames. I'm going to lock frames. And we're going to add a new one. I drew over my first frame of my scratch layer, on a new layer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this frame with both layers into a whole bunch of new frames. And the reason to do that is so that I have this exact drawing in a bunch of frames. Yes, onion skinning will keep me kind of honest, and it will keep me going and putting things in the same place more or less. But even with onion skinning, if you can only see one frame behind, you can start making mistakes that just compound, that just get worse, and you can end up with something that's pretty far away from where you started. I would like, for example, the legs to stay the same for about 25 frames. The only way to make sure that I do that, even with onion skinning, is to have like a template layer on the bottom that gives me a guide for where to put things. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say copy frame once, and then I'm going to delete what's on the background frame layer, or the scratch frame layer. This is supposed to be called scratch. Okay, here I'm on frame 3. Got my scratch layer, but I do want to just get rid of it because I want to redraw every layer. Now I've got a scratch layer with nothing on it. I've got a template layer with something on it, and I've got a onion skinning image from the second frame. So now I can just go ahead and duplicate a bunch of times. So copy frame, copy frame. I'm going to go up until frame 25, I think is where I'm going to start to change the legs. I might even go more than that though, because even though I'm changing the legs, it's nice to know where they were to begin with. So we'll go to 34. That ought to be enough. So now when I go back to frame 1 and see my scratch layer, frame 2, the eye shifts just a little bit. Frame 3, I can see the onion skinning and I can see the template. Okay, I am at the end of a little more than an hour's worth of work, and I have 10 frames, probably just scratch frames to my credit. So not a ton. And as I watched back through them, I saw that, things are moving pretty fast. I am going with a 100 millisecond frame rate, which means 10 frames per second. But if I preview it, and those first 10 frames, it's moving along. It's fast. So what I've decided I really need to do is kind of hold here, kind of slow it down a little bit for the next 10 frames, let's say, until I get to frame 20. I really want to, I might start to shape it into a bird a little bit. I'm looking down at my storyboard, and maybe I will shift the eyeball, but I'm really going to kind of hold this angle and this basic shape for a while and then kind of get back into more rapid changes after that. So signing off for now.